It's Kristianna Mrjenovich, your Second Chance Queen, and the host of the Second Chance Queen podcast. And tonight we are featuring another incredible woman from the International Ms. Pageant System, the newly crowned China Allen, who is the International Ms. USA. A little bit about China. China is a faith driven entrepreneur, autism advocate, and national title holder whose work sits at the intersection of leadership, resilience, and inclusion. She is the founder of Arizona Autism Moms, a fast growing support community empowering caregivers navigating autism and special needs, and Voice Up Leaders, a youth initiative dedicated to building inclusive schools and communities through education, advocacy, and peer leadership. As a devoted mother to children with developmental disabilities, China's advocacy is deeply personal. She brings lived experience, heart, and urgency to conversations around inclusion, resources, and representation, especially for families who often feel unseen or unsupported. In addition to her community work, China is the founder of Key Consulting, a business development and recruiting firm serving financial professionals nationwide. Her journey, from personal and professional setbacks to international recognition, fuels her mission to prove that purpose is often born from adversity. Please join me in welcoming China Allen. Welcome, China, to the Second Chance Queen podcast. I'm super excited to have you on, and I would love for you to kick off tonight's episode by telling us what your pivotal second chance moment is. If you could pinpoint one in your life that really changed its trajectory, what that looks like for you.
Absolutely. I certainly feel like there are many moments in my life where we had sort of that pause, shift, reevaluate, rethink, repurpose, and then get back to it. But one thing that I would say probably is still evolving even and is still shaping itself today is about 3.5 years ago, I was working in corporate America. I was working in business development for a big financial services company. I was kind of living like what you would think is every like girl's dream, just like out there killing it in corporate America, fighting it with the guys, or against the guys, like woman power, all the things. And at the time, I was a pretty young mom. I had two littles at home. I was traveling all over the country constantly. And I ended up, which still to this day, I look back and I'm like, it was probably the biggest grace of God that it happened, but also I'm still very confused. I felt like out of nowhere, I lost my job. I got terminated. Really no explanation. Arizona is a right to work state. And so it really caught me off guard. I felt like I had been giving my entire life and well-being to the organization, leaving my babies to go on the road for the company. And I was in a moment of, I don't know what I'm going to do. I went from working a six-figure career to zero, nothing. I had no income. I had no second plan or backup plan. I'd been in that career for about the time 9 years. So it's really the only career I had ever known. And I found myself going, okay, now what? What am I going to do? I've got little mouths to feed. I was single, in a relationship, but not committed. Like, we weren't living together. It was still very new. So I didn't really have like another support system I could super heavily lean on. And so after months, took months of really reevaluating and rethinking what I was going to do. I decided that I was going to start my own consulting company in financial services. And one of the things that I promised myself was that I was never going to treat people the way that I was treated in my exit and how a lot of that transpired. And that I was going to come back full force and honestly, with a little bit of a vengeance, even like maybe just a tad, I was pretty destined that I was going to clean house at my former employer, that I was going to pull advisors from there, that I was going to be everything that maybe I couldn't be while I was employed there, just due to, compliance and all the things. And the beauty of it is I now actually partner with multiple of the individuals that are still affiliated with that company. So it was a huge second chance. It's something that's still evolving. It's something that I took a chance. I took a massive chance and really just kind of had to pray about it and hope that it was all going to work out. And still to this day, I actually joke I was on the phone with a client today, and still to this day, I kind of joke about like, I still sometimes doubt like how we're going to pay the bills, even though like I know business is going well and I know everything is flourishing. I'm still like, oh, but what if it like what if it won't? What if it doesn't? What if it fails? What if this? What if that? What if that? And they that constant like self-doubt when it's something like starting a business and you're putting your entire livelihood on the line to do it. So that was probably one of the most pivotal, oh my gosh, pivotal moments really of my life because it's something that I think a lot of us take for granted, having a job, right? It's something that I would say 95% of America takes for granted having a job. You just think that, oh, well, if I lose it, I can go get another one or this or that. And it's just something that sometimes it's not that easy. And sometimes you realize in having something so large taken away that maybe I want something different. Maybe working that kind of lifestyle isn't what I want. And so to this day, we are a very flourishing, all women owned and operated financial services consulting firm, which I love that. I love that my employees are all girls and powerhouse women, really. They're all moms, which I love that too, because I love being able to empower the moms of the world. And I get to spend a whole lot more time home with my babies. You know, I don't have to worry about calling out because someone's sick or not being able to go to the holiday party at school. I can be present. And that's something that really in my kids' entire lives, I'd never been able to do up until this point. So that was a big one for me. There's many, many others, but that's probably one of the biggest ones.
That is such a unique second chance story. And I absolutely love that because it's one of the first, if not the first, career based second chance, but is such a huge pivotal moment. And I love bringing light to that. And I love that you are literally the definition of a girl boss. That is super cool. You are like girl boss, mom boss, all of the bosses. So that is amazing. And I relate to this so much on a deep level because there's something that I have not shared publicly, actually. And that's the fact that I am going to be leaving my business that was my mother's. I've been doing it for 17 years now,
My
and I've made the
gosh.
decision to pivot careers and yay, but it's also terrifying. So it's very much that moment like where you experience that, Florida's also a right to work state. So I understand the fear associated with that. That moment where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Can I
Mhm.
support my kids? All of that stuff is something that I'm also actively going through because when you're
Yeah.
starting a business from scratch and pivoting like that, it's a lot. It's time consuming. It's mental, draining.
Mhm.
So I relate 100% to your story. I love that. And I think it's something that raising awareness around those pivotal moments is so important. And I also love the fact that your story was not just a career pivot or a change, that you took that as a sign to start your own business and have your own security and start your own legacy. So I think that is super unique. To a woman that was in the same position, like if you could talk to yourself back when this first happened, what is a piece of advice or a word of wisdom that you would give her?
So, one of the things that I think as women we do, especially women in business, not only do we consistently doubt ourselves, especially because in our world, like any woman in any kind of business, whether it's corporate America or starting your own clothing line or whatever, you feel like there's always this competition, right? Like I I talk about this all the time with a lot of our female entrepreneur groups is why do we feel like there's so much competition? There's enough room at the table for everybody as long as you're ready to open up a seat, right? Like anybody can have a seat at the table. And I actually bring pageantry into this a lot and I'll mention it here because I do think it's so important when I talk about collaboration versus competition, and that's really, one of the things I always tell women to, you've got to push through. You've got to push through that mental burden of there's too much competition. The market I'm trying to get into is too saturated. No, it's not. That's the lie that you're telling yourself that's going to hinder yourself from moving forward in whatever dreams and aspirations you have. those dreams and aspirations are in your head for a reason. And so maybe listen to that reason and keep acting on that reason. It might take a while. It might not be in your ideal timing, but it will happen. If it's in your head it's in your head for a reason. But one of the things, especially around like the competition aspect or feeling like your market's too saturated or like there's too many people doing it, I always talk about pageantry because in pageantry, we become best friends with our literal competition. And I know you can relate to this. We become best friends with the people who we are actually competing directly against or with. And yet, at the end of the week, after we've cried together, after we've been vulnerable together, after we've shared multiple meals together, after we've gotten to know each other, our hearts, our platforms, no matter who wins, you're going to clap so loud and you're going to be so happy. And we need more of that in entrepreneurship. We need so much more of that in like helping and empowering women to start their businesses, to be in businesses, whether it's your full-time career or it's a side hustle. We need to stop constantly comparing and creating this competition and really enforce collaboration. So that's really the one thing that I would tell women who are maybe like, I don't know what to do, or like, I don't think I could do this, or there's too many people already doing what I want to do. I see it with network marketing all the time. I have friends that are literally killing it in network marketing, and they say, like, if I was so scared that everybody else was doing it, I would have never done it and I wouldn't be a six-figure earner. I'm like, yeah, girl, do what you got to do. Girl, boss it up. Like, it's great. I love it. So that's kind of the thing, is just realizing that you are so worthy, and if it's in your head, it's in your head for a reason. And you just got to push through a lot of those barriers.
I love the collaboration versus competition mindset because that's something that I've been very strong with since I started pageantry, was trying to collaborate with as many people as possible and not look at women as competition, because it makes the experience so much more fun in my eyes and it's so much more beneficial. And I think it takes a certain type of woman to also be able to do that, because one of the things that I do that is part of the new business that I'm creating is hand embroidery, which is so much fun. It's so relaxing for me. It's been a passion of mine since like 2019. And I remember when I first started, there was this woman that I absolutely loved. Her work was beautiful. But when people would ask her, like, where do you find your supplies? Or can you share with me what type of canvas you like using or whatever? This person would always say, I'm not sharing that information with you, and sometimes would get very rude and snarky towards people that were really admiring her and wanting to learn from her. And instead of embracing that, she shut people down. And that really turned me off to her business, to be honest, because I want to support someone who's supporting others. And so, as I'm launching this new venture that I'm going into, I actually teach now kids in the homeschool community hand embroidery, and I'm going to be expanding on that. And it's a different mindset when you're someone that looks at things like, oh, I'm not going to share my information with you because figure it out the way I had to, versus someone like you or I that's like, well, I'm going to figure it out on my own and teach others how to figure it out as well. There's something really powerful in that. So I love that not only are you empowering other moms and women through your business, you're also starting these initiatives that I want to get into, where you're also empowering others and promoting that collaboration and working together. So I would love for you, I talked in your bio about some of the amazing things that you're doing for moms with autism and advocating, as well as promoting inclusion. I would love to know a little bit more about that side of you as well. We love the business side, but now I want to know the mom side of China and what keeps you going with that.
100%. So they're my why. My children are my why, and my two younger boys both are on the autism spectrum. So I have a 7-year-old who is what we would call now profoundly autistic, severe. He's severe on the spectrum. And then my 6-year-old is actually much more high functioning, but has a lot of struggles that are very blind to the eye because he comes across so normal in your day-to-day interactions. He is verbal, he is potty trained, whereas my 7-year-old is nonverbal, not potty. So like it's a little more apparent, like even to the eye, like, okay, there's something off or different here. My youngest So surprisingly, my youngest, who is higher functioning on the autism spectrum, he was really the purpose for sparking a lot of my initiatives because he is overlooked in the school systems often for having a disability because he seems so capable. Whereas my 7-year old, he's in a self-contained classroom. He has a one-on-one, he's got a lot of support. But my 6-year old kind of falls back away from like extra help, extra IEP support, and I could go on for days about IEP support. But when I started noticing that, I was like, okay, we have a major gap here because you have the severely autistic individuals that are kept in self-contained classrooms, which also there's a huge problem with that. We need more inclusion for them as well. But then we also have just then general education. Like, where do the kids who fall somewhere in the middle end up? And the reality is they end up bullied. They end up wanting to be homeschooled or quit school. They end up having severe mental health challenges due to being bullied and not feeling like they're being understood and accepted. And so, about 6 months ago, I decided that I was going to start a program called Voice Up Leaders, and it is a peer-to-peer education program in the public school systems. And I'm a big believer that, we have teenagers. My partner has two teenagers, or a preteen and a teenager. And I promise you, they don't listen to anything we tell them. Like it's in one ear and out the other. But if their best friend says exactly what I just said, they're going to listen, right? And that's just kids. That's kids in general. Moms, dads, stepmoms, stepdads, we're always never going to be right. We don't know anything. They know everything, which is fine. Cool. Like, great. Do you, boo boo. But at the end of the day, when the kids work with the kids, it sticks. For some reason, I've done so many studies, but when the kids hear it from the kids, it sticks. And so I was like, okay, now we create more of a mentorship program where we have the kids teaching the kids about autism, whether it's siblings of autism or just people who, you know, are big advocates. And then on top of that, what we're doing is we're creating super strong leaders, right? We're teaching young kids how to go out and public speak. We're teaching young kids how to go out and present. We're teaching young kids how to go out and be kind, how to advocate. It's starting because the challenge is everyone says, well, it starts in the home. It starts in the home. Totally. Kindness starts in the home, but it's no fault to the parents either that they don't understand autism. If you're not in it, if you don't see it, if you don't have friends that have children with it or family members, you don't know how to appropriately educate your kids on autism. So everyone's like, oh, it's the parents' fault. I mean, sort of, like, not really. They don't know how to educate other than to just say, be nice, don't bully people, be kind. So that's been a huge initiative for us. It is part of my platform through pageantry. And then I also I have organized a mom group for Arizona Autism Moms. It's a big Facebook group. We have over 2,500 members in the Facebook group now. It's called Arizona Autism Moms. I founded it about 2.5 years ago. And it's just a place to share resources to say, hey, this isn't working for me. Do any moms out there or caregivers out there have advice or something that you can share? Talking about schools, different IEP programs, and all of these different areas that are very vulnerable topics to talk about. And really, the only person that's going to get it is another autism caregiver. So it's a great place. We get to share a different charity organizations that are important to us, different walks, all different kinds of things where parents can come together, meetup groups for moms to come together and connect in person. So that's also a huge part of my platform and what I do. So we have sort of the direct in the schools with the kiddos and then also supporting the moms.
That is so valuable on so many different levels. And the part about the IEPs, don't get me started on IEPs because as
Girl,
a mom with an ADHD child, my son is very ADHD, which is in the same kind of neighborhood as autism. They're different, but they are sometimes combined. There are plenty of people that have both. As someone who's very familiar with that, that's actually how I joined the homeschool community, was because my son's IEP was not being followed well, and the school system was pushing him up the ladder while he fell more and more down the ladder. And so we made the decision for our family to pull him out because he was starting to experience that bullying. He
Hmm.
was starting to really have his mental health affected. So we did. We became a homeschool family. And fortunately, working from home and having that flexibility already, it really works for us. But watching how someone's learning style is different, he learns so much better with just these couple of tweaks that the schools are not able or willing to provide.
Hmm.
So that's something that I definitely hold near and dear to my heart is that, doing what's best for your child. But also, I didn't know how to advocate for him with his IEP, with what he needed. I had no idea. So, your groups having resources for moms to help them learn how to advocate and help them with, you know, finding those resources is so invaluable. And the peer to peer as well, because I don't talk about it a super lot, but my sister has cerebral palsy. So she growing up, I was kind of one end of the spectrum with really, really high gifted, off the chart test scores, and then my sister was on the opposite end of the spectrum where, she's in her 30s and she's mentally like 7. So I
Hmm.
grew up in this space where I was with her with disabled children a lot. And I watched how they were treated, especially as a child. And so from a very young age, I was that kid that was like, no, you don't get to talk to her like that, or no, you don't get to. I was my sister's keeper essentially.
Yeah.
So I think being in those peer to peer spaces where you're having them advocate coming from that peer space is very invaluable, because if we don't have kids that, like you said, parents can say it all day long. I'm a kindness person. Like I literally founded a movement on promoting kindness, and my kids can still have some things come out of their mouth where I'm like, where did you hear that? I don't think so. Absolutely not. We're gonna like take it back a couple notches and reset your brain here for a second. So
Hmm.
I love what you're doing. I think that both of those avenues, you're kind of coming at it from two different angles and providing so much support. And I absolutely love that. Do you have any plans to expand those programs, maybe beyond Arizona? Do you want to see them become a national thing?
100%. I think that that's one of the things that I was really excited about to win a national title is because I feel like having that as more of a motivator to get out and make it more of a national presence. Autism, we are very blessed. In Arizona, it's one of the best states that you can live in for autism and advocate. We have 90% of the United States research facilities are here. We're just very lucky. We have a lot of support, there's a lot of resources, and yet I'm still seeing individuals and moms struggling in a state that has, I mean, a robust amount of resources and facilities. And so I already know, because we are getting kind of pulled into conversations outside of Arizona, how bad it is other places. And so it is going to be a heavy lift. I think too, the other thing too is schools are guarded. They're guarded with a lot of the information that they want people to come in and be able to present. I say this in a way that almost makes me cringe and uncomfortable, but they keep our kids in self-contained classrooms for a reason because it's too much work to have them be included in the day-to-day operations of the school. My son eats lunch with only special needs kids. My son goes to recess with only special needs kids. My son walks down a hallway of the special needs classrooms where there are no general education students. This is a national problem. And then I see headlines. I don't remember what state it was, but a little boy ended up dying. 10-year-old boy ended up dying because a public school decided to lock him in an autistic child in a enclosed space, and he head banged so hard that he ended up with a brain bleed and he passed away 4 days later. So, this is a national problem. This is a massive problem, but I also think that it is a problem that a lot of public schools are wanting to just put a band-aid on. And everyone always says to me, "Well, China, why don't you just put your son in a private, special education school?" And the answer that I always have is, what is that going to do for him and for the other students that should learn about him? Because my son is going to be immersed into a regular world one day, and then what? Then what? It's my job as his mom, and it's all of the autism's parents' jobs to make sure that the world knows how to adapt to him just as we expect him to adapt to certain aspects of the world. And so I would love to see voice up leaders go on to a national presence. I think it's going to be a heavy lift. It is something that I am willing to do. It's kind of one of the reasons why we've been staffing up on the business side, so that that can kind of continue to run itself while, we're out traveling and kind of getting this program up and running in other areas. We'll probably start in the Southwest, New Mexico, California, Texas, Colorado, and then slowly work our way. But we're always looking for partners that in other states that like are, heck yes, we want to know. We will be your, East Coast advocate for voice up leaders. So that's something that I'm really working on right now too, is kind of finding other moms in other areas of the country that would be interested in sort of leading that charge with our curriculum, because we do have a curriculum built.
I think that getting that message out there, and hopefully this podcast can help do that,
I know,
is
selfish
a
plug.
huge
Sorry, guys.
thing. No, no, no. I love all the plug. Plug however many plugs you can plug into this podcast, plug them. I love that. So, but if anybody is listening and you have a connect, you maybe are someone that's in the school system that maybe also has an autistic child or something like that, China would be a great person to talk to, because getting that connection established and out there is huge. And I do want to take a moment too to recognize your younger son, because I can relate to that kind of invisible disability type of thing as someone who has, I'm not autistic, but I am ADHD, and I also have a chronic illness that's known as an invisible illness. So I look to everybody's eye like I'm just a regular healthy person, but I actually have a condition that flares up pretty badly. And so when you're someone that lives in that zone where you're high functioning and you appear to the naked eye as a normal person, it is more difficult. And so I think raising that awareness so that he doesn't ever feel invisible is one of the
Hmm.
best things that you can do as a mother, because, like you said, the world, your other son is going to get thrust into the world, but so is he, and he's going to have his unique struggles. I
Yep.
think also we are coming to a place now where autism is starting to get more talked about.
Hmm.
We're seeing characters on TV. They may or may not say they're autistic, but from the mannerisms, it's kind of in line. And I know from teaching several kids in my courses that are diagnosed autistic, that there's things about them that are very misunderstood.
Hmm.
For example, social cues. Someone may hear the directness of a child with autism and think, oh, that kid is rude. Did their parents not teach them manners? And it's not that they're trying to be rude, they're just very direct.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to share as a mom with two autistic sons that you would like to really get this message or break a stigma about autism? Is there anything in particular that's kind of like your go to statement where you want people to know this particular thing?
Yeah. One thing that I would say is any sort of like abnormal body movements. I know that both of my boys, even Cash, my younger son, he gets he can't he has a really hard time with regulating emotion, no matter what the emotion is, whether it's excitement, whether it's sadness. And so when he gets really excited, he might hit someone. It's not because he is intentionally wanting to hit someone or cause harm. It's just like he cannot contain his body movement. It's almost like a stim. It's a regulating function for him. Granted, I wish hitting was not his regulating function. That's his thing. Whereas my other son will run, will spin, will hand flap. A lot of those more like standard that you hear about or see or the characters on these shows might have. But my other son, he gets in trouble quite often for, and it's something I'm constantly talking to the schools about, or even with some of the other parents, my son will get in trouble for not having kind hands. And then I dig a little more into what the situation was. And I'm like, oh, there was a birthday party in the classroom and everyone was singing and he got really overstimulated and excited. And so he used what we would call like his inappropriate excited hands, right? Like, because it's still not appropriate. We still have to keep our hands to ourselves, but he had no intentions. And so that's one thing is I would just say pay attention to some of those like physical cues. And then also never being super offended if someone doesn't respond back to you. Because even Cash, who is very high functioning, I feel like sometimes gets social anxiety. And so even though he's fully verbal, if a stranger or someone who, which I love because stranger danger all day long, but if someone who he's not comfortable with tries to approach him or say something to him or, hey, how old are you? What's your name? Like at the grocery store, right? Like when the cashiers are trying to make, they're, oh, your kids are so cute. What's your name? My nonverbal son will straight up just look at her and be like, cool. And I'm like, and then you have to say, oh, sorry, he's nonverbal. And that's the other thing. If there are any parents of special needs, never apologize. I'm still really bad about it. I try to not apologize for my child's disability, but I find myself doing it. But I feel like it just dismisses the fact that he's here and he's so capable and he's so wonderful. And there's nothing to apologize for. But that's the other thing is just never be super offended if someone doesn't respond back to you, even if they are verbal. They may just be processing the question or what how they want to answer. And so that's a big one, and those are kind of the two things that my younger son, I feel like gets made fun of a lot for, even in class, if he gets called on and maybe he knows the answer, but it's that social anxiety of like, I'm on the spot because he's super intelligent and he knows the answer most of the time, but he'll say, I don't know because he can't get it out. And then he gets made fun of, or, it's really unfortunate, but it is, we work with him at home to try and we always say like you got to find your voice, buddy. Like we have to use safe hands all the time. But he is who he is. I we can do our best to try and implement change, but I never really want to change who he is. And I think over time he'll grow out of certain things, especially as he gets older and learns those appropriate coping mechanisms and techniques. But those are the two things really is never be offended if they don't speak back to you and just pay attention to some of the physical cues. A lot of times it's not just a child acting out or, being, I feel like my entire family has ADHD, but it may just truly be a coping mechanism. Like that repetitious movement is how they're able to regulate themselves. And so that's that.
I feel like the thing that Whitley taught us in our Still She Rose workshop would be amazing for your son. I don't know if she called it like somatic, the
The
tapping.
tapping.
I feel like that would be an amazing thing for him potentially. Like that just popped in my mind when you were talking about like the physical, because I know I'm using that now. Shout out to Whitley for teaching us the tapping because I use that now a lot. Something like that I feel like could be helpful for him potentially in the future. Also, life is overstimulating and people need to
Totally.
understand that these kiddos they're going to handle those things differently. So I love that you're raising awareness for those things. And I want to talk about voices for a second because like you mentioned your son being put on the spot and what that looks like for him. But I want to highlight back in the pageant realm how incredible of a speaker his mother is on the spot. Because as someone who was up on that stage watching and giving my own, top five statement, and then watching your top five statement, honestly, was probably my favorite that I heard. For those who don't know, not to embarrass you and put you
No,
on the
it's on
spot,
the internet. It's totally fine. It's public information at this point. We're running with it. It's part of the brand. It's fine.
the fall scene round the world with poor China, who was having technical difficulties with wardrobe and circumstances beyond her control during finals, who still managed to pull a national title half zipped, mind you. Absolute powerhouse. But her speech was something that I don't know will ever get the credit that it deserves, because you so gracefully linked who you are, your platform, all of the information that the judges and audience needed to know about you with your resilience and your statement about getting back up. I was just absolutely mind blown at how fluid you were with that. And in that moment, I went, you know, I know why she won. I will say that I did have a feeling about you from very early on in the week. I remember sitting next to you at the luncheon, and I remember this sounds terrible, but you are stunning. First of all, absolutely stunning. But when I realized that your inside matched your outside, it just was like, okay, she is the full package. She's not only drop dead gorgeous, but she's so down to earth and genuine and authentic and beautiful inside
You're
that it's
gonna
a
literally make
dynamic
me cry.
duo.
Like my eyes are actually watering right now.
It is, but it's so true. It's like there's one thing when you have an absolutely drop dead gorgeous woman, but then you talk to her and like you know that she low key knows that she's that drop dead gorgeous, and you totally are like, oh yeah, she totally knows. You obviously, I'm sure you're confident you're a pageant woman, know that you're drop dead gorgeous. But I don't think you understand how drop dead gorgeous you are, because you're just so genuine and sweet. And it was such like oh my God, she's so sweet moment. So I absolutely love that. I fell in love with you in a non creepy way at the Still She Rose luncheon, getting to really interact with you and be like, oh wow, she's incredible. And then to watch you have your performance, which was beautiful, falls or no falls, absolutely stunning. And then to hear your speech and how you made that impact statement, I was just sitting there like, I just have this feeling. And then to watch your crowning, I had so much pride for you. And I'm so honored that I get to be your sister queen and we get to reign together, because you are just one of those women that I see and I'm like, she is so high caliber and just an absolute powerhouse. So I just want you to know that you are really inspirational for so many. I know you were someone that I met and from the get-go was like, she's going to change lives out there, and you're doing that. So I have to give you kudos though, that speaking, that my whole like love session about how amazing China is to point out her impact statement was phenomenal. Is there anything that you did to prepare yourself for public speaking like that? Because that takes some practice.
Um, I will say that growing up, I've had a bit of a again, this kind of goes back, like there's been so many second chances, right? Like so many things. But I grew up in a world where I didn't really feel seen at home. And it's not that I had a terrible upbringing. My parents were, well off. I had a lot of things. I busy. My dad passed away when I was very young. My mom had a business to run, and I was the only child among. I had an older sister who was 20 years my senior, so we weren't. It's not like I had someone to play with at home, and so I just got really used to like performing for myself and like trying to like get my parents' attention, to be quite honest. Like I was the little girl that my parents would have a company holiday party and I'd come out and be like, la da, like I'm here and I'm gonna sing for you. And my mom's like, oh my gosh, someone get her off stage, like that was kind of and so I fell in love with being a performer at a very young age. And that kind of led into high school. And again, I was the weird girl. I was a flag twirler in band, which a cheerleader, you're not a dancer, you twirl it. You're not even talented enough to play an instrument. You twirl the flag. So I was a flag twirler in high school. And then I finally was like, you know what? I think I really want to do theater. And so I got into the world of theater And I took it all throughout high school. Like starting as a freshman, I actually had a full ride scholarship to a theater school in New York City. And then I got pregnant at 18 and I decided to become a mom instead. And so my life kind of shifted and changed. And then I got into sales. And so I think sales really also prepares you for just being able to have to think on the spot. You have to be able to overcome objections. And I got into financial services sales where I was like 24-year-old girl presenting to like 60-year-old men. And so like you had to kind of know your stuff. Like you couldn't, it wasn't something where you could just kind of like fluff it and think like you really had to know your stuff. And I just had to become very intentional with like the things that I wanted to learn about, the things that I wanted to be able to speak about. And I think that anybody can be really great at public speaking if you have intention behind you. I think that's like the number one thing when it comes to public speaking. It's you have to have a level of confidence, but you also have to have true intention to the things that you're saying, and you have to say it with integrity, and like people can pick up on it. And so that's kind of like how I feel like I got into the world of public speaking. But I will tell you, all of the things that you just said warm my heart so much because at the end of the day, I don't, there's a woman out there or a man that needs to hear this. I am still struggling with feeling beautiful, with feeling confident, with waking up every day and truly knowing that I'm like the bad ass, like I still struggle with that. And I want to make that so real. And I would say that with my situation, a lot of it has to come from a lot of that trauma as a child. Like not even trauma, but just like always feeling unseen, always feeling like nobody, no, I'm never worthy enough. I'm never good enough. I'm divorced. I went through a really, really rough divorce. That was super mentally and emotionally challenging. Estranged friendships and family members, that makes you feel like you've lost your worth. There's just a whole lot of things. So hearing that honestly brings me so much joy. You have no idea. Like sometimes even the most beautiful, the most incredible people need to hear it. I think the exact same thing about you. I think you are absolutely actually after the lunch, we went back up to our hotel room and I was like, Kristianna, the girl that you're sitting next to, I'm obsessed with her. And Steven's like, cool, you want to go room with her? And I was like, you know what? I would. She already has a roommate.
You would have been welcome for sure. Gonna see each other here in a couple months anyway at Miami Swim Week. So that's gonna be fun. And I'm super excited for some sister queen time for that. But I think authenticity often finds authenticity and connects with it. And I think that's why having reigning national title holders like you and myself and Misty is super important for International Ms. as a system. I just really want to take a second to highlight International Ms. because we are all women from different walks of life. We all have extremely different platforms. We all have different whys and purposes, but we're all working queens. And that's something really important to highlight and also to talk about the different beauty standards and what that looks like too. Because we have an awesome year this year where we have a curvy queen, we have Misty, who is 50, which is an amazing thing for a national title holder. And then we have the absolutely stunning China, who is just love her to death. So you can see the diversity in the national court, though. And I think that's so important to highlight and show that, if you look gorgeous like China, it's a great place for you to come compete. If you look curvy like myself, could be home for you. And if you think that your days are long gone because you're in your 40s or 50s, International Ms. is still a place for you. So I think that having such a diverse court is super awesome this year. And I look forward to working the three of us together. We're going to have an awesome long, fun reign. And I'd love to know what your favorite thing about International Ms. is, because that's kind of mine. And what drew me to the system was seeing Whitley Nabintu Marshall on the stage and saying like, oh, she is fighting beauty standards and she's unique and she has her own look. This could be a place where I could come. And that's what I hope to do as a title holder, for women to see me and go, I have curves. They'll put a crown on her head. They'll put a crown on my head. That's my favorite thing about International Ms. But What drew you to International Ms., and what would you say is your favorite thing or something that you're hoping to accomplish as a national title holder?
So I would say that what drew me to international news were the similar factors that drew you in. I have tattoos all over my body, and I have been told multiple times you'll never wear a national, let alone an international crown with tattoos for your body. And I'm like, okay, watch me. Like, that's hilarious.
Watch me.
Dare me, because I'm gonna do it. And so that was huge for me. And I also too, like, I'm a huge body positivity. I love diversity. A lot of people don't know this. If you dig a little deeper down into my Instagram, you can see it. But and I probably should talk. I want to talk more about it. But I did go through after my divorce a major weight loss transformation. I lost 130 pounds, and so I also struggle with like the skin, excess skin, and all of those different things. And I just felt that by looking at former queens and current reigning queens, like, okay, this is a very inclusive place where it doesn't really matter what you look like. They're focusing, it's a platform pageant. Like, yes, you still have to be, you know, beautiful on the inside out, but beauty looks different on the inside out for multiple people, and that's okay. And so I loved that it was a platform pageant that really did focus on more what's in here versus like what's out here. Because I've met beauty queens from tons of other systems where I'm like, wow, she's really pretty. Cool. Like, that's it. Like she's beautiful. That's really all I can give you. And I felt like with International Ms, there's just so much substance. And then what I loved the most about the International Ms that I loved all the sisterhood. Yeah, like that. I feel like I've competed in pageants before and I love pageants, but I feel like a lot of times you feel very isolated and it's just like, yes, you have rehearsals together or you might have an event, share a meal together. But one of the things that I loved the most that was that we had like a sisterhood outing. We had our walking workshop, we had our wellness workshop, we had the luncheon, we had a fashion show that we all walked together. Like there were just so many opportunities to build friendships and build that sisterhood. And I really, really loved that because I don't have many friends. And so, like, people always ask me, like, why pageantry? And it's like, well, it's where I can find friends that are of value, to be honest. Like, I can find friendships with incredible women who are doing great things that I'm going to want to be able to collaborate with long term. And that's what I want. Like, we want friends that are going to elevate us, not hold us back. And so, that was one of the biggest things that I gathered. I feel like I walked away from the week. The title is phenomenal and I'm so excited about that. But I felt like I walked away with even greater friendships that will continue even when the title is no longer. So, and then one thing that I just really kind of hope to do in my reign is I love pageantry. I want to talk all the time. I want women to know the way that it has completely transformed my life and it's given me a level of confidence that now I get to pour into other women. So, originally getting into pageantry was like, oh, I have lost myself in being a mom and a career woman, and I just need something that's going to make me feel good and like help me. But now it's completely shifted, and I want to do pageantry to show other women that anybody can do this. Literally anybody, no matter how much money you have or don't have. It's about being authentic. It's about showing up, and you're gonna learn something at the end of the day, whether you win or you don't. You're gonna take something away from the experience that is going to change your life and transform you in some way, shape, or form. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
I agree wholeheartedly. And the sisterhood is so real with International Ms. It's where I've formed lifelong friendships from last year. Coming back this year, I had one of my best friends in the world, Sarah Dukart, who is Mrs. Midwest. We love Sarah. But I met her last year. We didn't really interact at last year's pageant. We weren't anywhere near each other, didn't really know who each other was. But afterwards, we were like, and we just kind of and because of that, we became not just pageant friends. Like sometimes you have a lot of friends that are in the pageantry realm and you're like, oh, these are my pageant friends. But Sarah is someone that I genuinely consider one of my best friends in life. If something great happens, I want to tell her. If something terrible happens, I want to tell her. She's transcended that pageantry friend type of thing. And same thing with Whitley. Whitley, started off as a pageantry friend and now she's one of my very best friends. So I've met some incredible women, and I'm very similar to you in that I don't have a lot of friends either. I know a lot of people, but I
Yep.
don't have a lot of friends. So I don't necessarily hate it that way because I feel like when you build friendships that are very intentional, like you said, intention is a big word in this conversation, but when you build those intentional friendships with women that you can trust and that are at that higher caliber level, it's different. And International Ms is an outstanding collection of those women because I've been there now. This was my second year. There was like no drama. It was
None.
just, there was no cattiness. We had these big kumbaya heart to hearts in the Still She Rose wellness workshop, and we all really opened up to each other. And then backstage, I know I was walking around just like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like bouncing around between everybody and just checking on people. And people were just like, "I'm good." And it seemed like people were genuinely having a good time. And that's something that you don't always see at pageants. Sometimes you're walking backstage and people are just like, "I'm not on stage, don't talk to me, don't look at me," or like you're getting the and some systems unfortunately can be like that. That is, pageantry has its positive and its negatives, but International Ms is definitely not one of those systems. You're more likely to meet someone that's like, "Hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Are you nervous?" Like, that type of thing versus the alternative. And I think pageantry is moving in the direction where you're talking about where, it was getting a bad rep. We were seeing a lot of the negative side of things, but in order for pageantry to succeed moving forward with the way the world is changing, I think we really do need to see a shift in a body positive, inclusive space, and also one that is platform focused and empowerment focused. Because when pageantry started, it may have been about beauty and beauty pageants and how you looked on the outside. But in this day and age, that's not going to sustain these systems for much longer. People want
No.
substance, they want change. So I love that you're kind of recruiting more people into pageantry because seeing it continue is something that I think we all want. And I think it's genuinely very well needed. And I think someone like you is the perfect person to do it because, like you said, to the outside, you look confident, you look all of these things, but you carry your own feelings, your own traumas, your own insecurities. So I think that the power of seeing a woman who from the outside people would say, "Oh, she's stunning, she's got everything," but you're vulnerable enough to say, "Well, I still struggle with this. I still have this," and talk about your mental health and your feelings. That is more powerful and I think more influential than even you have realized yet. So I will say, I think that you're definitely going to change lives with that. And I love that.
Thank I appreciate that. I had a couple friends a few years ago that said, like, you can't just show, like, you have to show the messy middle. You have to show everything. Like, if you want to have this very public persona, and it seems like you do, because you're in all these pageants, you have a public Instagram, like, you can't just show up with all these highlight reels. Most of the celebrities do it, and they can get away with doing it, but like, I don't want to be that. I want to be the person that shows up when it's messy. I want to be the person that shows up when it's hard. I want to be the person that shows up because I tears streaming down my face because my son wouldn't cooperate this morning. But like, this is real. This is raw. I joke all the time, and my friends will text me after pageant week and be like, "Are you back to your peasantness this week?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm literally a peasant. Like, I'm wiping butts and cleaning dishes. Like, I like." Hey guys, this is real. Like, you can be a beauty queen and like wear the crown and have all the glam and have all the pictures and the paparazzi and all the things, and then we come home and we're normal women who live real lives that lot and stress and things going on and kids and all of the things. And so, I'm a really big advocate for women knowing that that's why anybody can do this. Like, anybody can do this. If you have a passion, if you have a voice, if you have things that you want to create an awareness for or bring attention to, like, do a pageant. It's the best way to do it. Like, get your platform out there, talk about it. And you just have to be very intentional with which pageant you choose. And that's where International Ms, I felt like it was a no-brainer. I also had heard wonderful things from other women that I had read with in the past and said like, yeah, I've heard about a lot of systems. I have nothing negative to say about that one. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, then that's going to be the next one that I do. I probably will say the same with this. When I finished my last pageant system, which was a wonderful experience. I loved every second of it. I sat down with our director after I recrowned my successor and I said, hey, I just want you to know, like, very candidly, my work here in this world is not finished. And she was like, oh, I know. I know, honey. Like, you're going to go on and you're going to do more. And I feel like that'll probably be the same with International Ms. I just feel like my work isn't finished. I want to continue to bring women and girls into this world, and I want to keep talking about what this can do to you and your confidence and your. I mean, it can be a beautiful thing. It can also be a very difficult thing, but I think it shapes really strong women moving forward.
I absolutely love that mindset. It's so important, and I love hearing like, "Oh, my work is not finished," because I love everything that you're doing. So the journey is super important, and seeing that or hearing that really warms my heart. And highlighting our system is something obviously very important to us. And I can genuinely say, as someone who has won the crown and not won the crown in this system, that I wouldn't have come back if it wasn't worth fighting for. And I hope to see a lot of the girls that we competed with this year coming back. My message was like, come back for your second chance. Like, that's my whole thing. And here, look, it happened. So, but something you said that I also really want to highlight is the authenticity and showing both sides. Because, like you said, celebrities can get away with highlight reels. Real life peasants like us cannot. I love that term too, because they do not prepare you or talk enough about the shock of going back to your regular life after pageantry, especially after winning a title, because you come back and you're like, I won. And then people in your board meeting, like, don't care at all. They have nothing.
Right.
Like, where's that report? I don't care, you know? And you're just like,
Yeah.
so that
100%.
transition, so authentic and real. Love to love to hear I'm not the only one that felt that way, because
Hmm.
for a hot minute I was like, I felt important, and now it's different.
1,000%. You go from like, I'll wake up at 6 a.m. and be like, what do you mean today? Like, I have to do my own makeup. What do you mean? I have to make the lunches. Lunch isn't being provided to me. I'm like, this seems wrong. This seems like something off balance here. Like, no, we're just back to regular life.
Like, take me back to a couple weekends ago. I much rather would be there, but I relate. And I feel like the authenticity thing is something too that I really want to continue to do on social media. I know I've done that a lot this year with my platform. I've showed my platform and everything, but I've also showed like when I've lost people in my life and my mental health was struggling, or breaking my hand right before the pageant and sharing the difficulties that I was going through leading up to the pageant. That wasn't for sympathy points. That wasn't, to get people to be like, look at her, like she broke her hand, poor thing, and she showed up anyway. It was quite literally the opposite. It was to show the ups and downs, but also to show like I broke my hand and I showed up anyway, and I walked away with a national title. And that message, not to toot my own horn, but if someone out there is going through a struggle and saying, like, oh, I can't do this because of this, you absolutely don't need to be held back by that. Because if I can walk on a national stage and walk away with a national title with a broken hand and all of the things leading up to the pageant, then you can do that same thing too. And I think title holders like myself and you, who are trying to show women the real life side of things and the authentic and the positive and negative, is super important. And that's also where Still She Rose comes in handy, and that we have a mental health based platform. Is I'm sure that's something that's very near and dear to you as well, being a mom that has a traumatic history. Like you've mentioned, you have a lot of second chances, you have a lot of life changes. What is something that you do for your mental health? or your self care or something that keeps you going?
Lately, I feel like nothing. We're running on burnout, so something's gonna give here soon. No, but in all seriousness, I would say that truly, like, my mental health break is my partner. Like being in his presence and like having on the weekends that we don't have any kids. So we're a Brady Bunch household. So I don't have my boys on the weekends, and then his weekends will alternate. And I would say that really mental health doesn't need to be like, oh, I have to go to the gym every day or I have to go. I feel like sometimes people even like put too much pressure on like, what are you doing for your mental health? Like literally what I do for my mental health is we veg out on the couch and watch TV all night long and eat takeout and like do nothing. Like that, yes, I still love to go to yoga and I love to meditate and I love to do all those things. But the biggest mental health reset isn't necessarily an action, it is a person. And like being able to have a safe place to like lay out the heavy burdens. And like sometimes even just mental health, like for me, it's just getting it all out. Like, but this is what I'm going through right now, and having him be like, okay, we're gonna get through it. And just hearing that, and it's like, okay, I'm better now. Like, thank you for listening to me go crazy for an hour, but like, I needed that, and now I'm better. Thank you. And so sometimes it's just like that. And so like I shared, I still try to get to the yoga class. I love yoga. I'm not a gym girly. Like I don't lift, I don't run. Like I you won't if you see me running, also run because it's probably for a bad reason. But I love
Same.
yoga. So, yeah, right. Like you won't catch me right. I'm probably like one of the few people that's like I don't do cardio. I'm glad I'm in good company here. But I still try to do yoga. I do try to like meditate. I try, in the middle of a busy day to like go sit outside and get, a few deep breaths in because we are moving at such a quick pace. We do have such a chaotic lifestyle with all the kids and the life things and the charity events and work. And so sometimes mental health uh, for us is just sitting on the couch and doing nothing. Great. And that is enough. That's more than enough. And so I do want people to know, like, it doesn't have to be this extravagant, like, oh, I went on a 5 mile hike in the Grand Canyon and that was my mental health reset. Like, really? That sounds awful. That's not sounds like a mental health reset. It sounds like a full time job. You should have gotten paid to do that.
I love that. I feel the exact same way. My husband is the same. He's my person. He's my mental health place. And I'm very similar to you in that I have, my boys are at their dad's on the weekend. And so the weekends are my time to reset. I call they're like my mental health weekends because during the week for me, you're probably the same. You're a mom of multiple children. You're a pageant queen that's got all these initiatives that you're working on and things you're doing. You're an entrepreneur like me. Like we have a lot of parallels. And so we're the same. On the weekend, I feel like I'm running on E all week. And then it hits Friday night. My boys go to their dad's and then my husband and I will lay in bed and watch Chopped and like veg out watching our
Yep.
cooking shows. And that's our self care. Sometimes self care and mental health proactive is doing nothing.
Hmm.
So while people are telling you, like, what are you doing for your mental health? Sometimes my answer would be nothing. I'm doing nothing. I'm vegging out. So we have very similar self care. And also, cardio, I use that line, my husband will probably laugh when I say this. Same thing. If I'm running, you better run too because there's something chasing me. Like one of my friends, I have a text where she was like, I did an awesome 7 mile run today. And she talks about how her mental health is terrible if she doesn't run. And I'm like, really? What's that like? Because my mental health is terrible if I run. Like, if
My
I'm
physical
running,
health is, yeah, so we did, my boyfriend's son is really taking BMX racing to the next level. And so we're currently homeschooling him. And he, like, during the day when he's home, like, we're all fiance, whatever, my person is a fireman 2 straight days. So when the boys are here and he's here, like, they'll work out during the day. So last week I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to go work out with them. Like, yeah, cool stepmom vibes. I ran like not even far, like around our house, pretty much. It's like not even a quarter of a mile, 2 times. with like a 10-minute break in between, I felt like I could not walk for literally 3 days. I was so physically sore. I was like, my neck hurts, my back hurts. I felt like I had gotten into a car accident and had like terrible whiplash. I was like, I am not meant to run. I am meant to do a lot of things. Running is not one of them. So for when I do feel like I need to move my body, we do walk. We go on a lot of hikes. I do love to hike. We live in Arizona. It's absolutely beautiful here 90% of the year except for summer. So we do a lot of hiking. I do enjoy hiking. Love yoga, so that's fun too. But like I said, I just love to, yeah, veg out and do nothing. That is my mental health reset, is to just do nothing.
I agree. I mean, that's a great mental health reset. 100% on board with that. Something that I love to ask everyone is, what is your definition of confidence? So, with my platform obviously being confidence based and authenticity and all of that, I love hearing everyone's definition of confidence because it's always different. So, what would yours be?
So what's interesting is my definition of confidence is something that I personally work on every single day and struggling with every day. But I think that it is truly my biggest definition of confidence. I have to walk into a lot of rooms, whether it's a conference room, whether it's, an actual conference, whether it's a classroom. And one of the biggest things is walking into a room and truly believing, number one, that I am deserving of being in that room. And number two, that I don't really care if someone else doesn't feel that I'm deserving of being in that room. And I think that, and the room is obviously, it can be anything, right? It can be, a friendship group. It can be a new venture that you're trying to get into. The room can be anything, but truly believing that I'm worthy of being in that room and that I don't really care if someone else doesn't feel that I'm worthy of being in that room. I'm going to not their judgments to affect me. And again, to me, that's one of the biggest like that's the definition of confidence to me. And it is still, I cannot say this loud and clear enough, still something that I personally work on every single day. I have to walk into business meetings and into conferences and as I'm walking in, I have to tell myself, you deserve to be here. You deserve a spot to be. I have to like literally ingrain it into my brain. I'm gonna like have it tattooed on my, you deserve this, so that when I look in the mirror, I'm like, right, I remember. Like now that attachments are progressive, it would be fine and welcoming. And everybody would know that I deserve to be here. So but that is like truly the definition of confidence to me, is like knowing that you deserve a spot. And I don't really care what anybody has to say. I deserve a spot. And I think I'm better at the first one than I am at the second one. I'm better at believing that I deserve to be here, but I definitely struggle with caring about what other people think if they don't deserve. And it will hurt my confidence. Even today, I had someone who I actually know, which is really weird, like trolling on my Instagram and like making on comments and like laughing faces on stuff. And again, it's weird that I know this person because typically it's someone you like don't know. And immediately it affected me. And I'm like, why? 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 I had to like really sit back and like rethink that. Like, why is this affecting me? Like, this person literally, I haven't spoken to this person in probably 13 years. Like, they mean nothing to me. They don't know me. They don't know anything about my life today versus who I was 13 years ago. And so, again, it's easier for me to believe the first one that I deserve to be here, but I still really struggle with that judgment and like caring about what other people, if they believe that
Is very understanding, but also that person is nuts because you clearly deserve to be here and you would not have the crown and sash that you have right now if you were not worthy of it. So I will tell that person, even if you can't tell that person that you deserve to be here, I will tell that person. So if you're listening, troll, she deserves to be here because
thank you.
she's a powerhouse.
Well, and I always joke and say, like, the trolls will listen to this, right? Like, that's what's so funny is at the end of the day, they're trolling because they care so much about like what we're doing. And actually, like, that in itself should be a confidence booster. Like the fact that you care so much about what I'm doing. So, like, to the trolls listening to this, because I know you are, like, it's cool. Great. Thanks for Thanks for giving us a view and a listen. You're helping Kristianna get higher up on the podcast rankings. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Like, if you are still in that person's brain after 13 years, like, that is the biggest compliment right there. So own that space because you're obviously taking up space in their head. Own it.
For sure.
I
100%.
love that. Other than myself, because we know I'm the second chance queen, what famous person would you designate as an honorary second chance queen to join my squad and why?
Someone who I think is an honorary second chance queen, or who I would nominate, is probably. Okay, so this is kind of a weird one, but I would say, because I love her, like deep down, I really do love her. I would have to say Lady Gaga, and here's why. First of all, I love so much of what she stands for. But I feel like there was a part in her world where she got a little into some things that like I'm not super in agreement with, like some of the more like eclectic and like drum type stuff, and like kind of being the she decided that she was really going making great music, but then she decided that she was really going to like kind of change, become more like that glamour girl. I feel like we saw her go from like wearing raw meat on the red carpet, which was, a fashion statement for sure, and one we'll never forget, to like these beautiful gowns and like winning like awards for movie roles. Like we just saw a major shift in her. And it's a shift that I really love. Love nothing more. Like I love anybody who can just be authentically themselves, no matter what that means to them. But there's nothing I love more than like a glamour girl, like a girl that's just so like you look at her and you're just like, oh wow, like so classy, so elegant. And I just feel like she's really transformed in the last several years to that. And I feel like she's created an incredible name for herself for acting and her acting career. And I'm just really excited for her. I love everything she stands for. So she's probably a top one for me.
I love Lady Gaga. She has not been mentioned yet, so that is
Yay,
she's a
good.
new person. Yes, but I absolutely agree with you. I feel like when she first came out, she was this like shock factor performer where her music was fun and it was entertaining and it was like shock value and it was unique. And then we saw her go through that transition, like you said, and transition into that actor and that classy woman. And I feel like she shed that Lady Gaga kind of persona and grew into like Stephanie, which is who she actually is. And now she's like this mixture kind of both, which I think is really cool to see. So I welcome Lady Gaga to the roster because I absolutely love that.
Yay! I'm glad she made the
And
roster.
she made the roster. And to close out tonight's episode, I could probably talk to you all night, but I would love to know any parting words, anything that you would like to leave the audience with, maybe something we didn't cover, if there's a shameless plug or two you want to add in there, just anything to give us a message to ruminate on from China.
Yeah. So I would say, one of the biggest things that resonates with me that I continue to take on with me, and I touched on it already tonight, but I want to touch on it again because I do think it's just so important, is show up anyway, no matter what showing up is for you, like whether that's showing up to your business, whether it's showing up to your family, whether it's showing up in a relationship, showing up in your social media, you're trying to build a brand, a presence, like show up. It's hard to show up. It's hard to feel like it always has to be perfect. It doesn't. And actually, you're going to gain more acknowledgement and traction from showing up authentic versus showing up perfect. So that's one thing I would also say, and here's my like selfish plug in addition to already plugging the autism voice up leaders across the country if anybody wants to get involved. But if you to witness me show up in my daily life, because I do, I show up messy, I show up, looking like a homeless person some days. It is what it is. But then you get to see me also clammed up and ready for pageants and judging pageants and all the things. You can follow me on Instagram. It's china.international Miss USA 2026. So you can follow me on Instagram and watch all of that super fun stuff transpire. I like to think I'm fun. Watch, you'll see our kids and all of the different things that we're involved with them and their activities. I love to talk about my kids and shout out my kids and my boyfriend's kids through social media. And yeah, just no matter what you're doing or no matter where you're going in life, just know that you deserve to be there, regardless of what that is, and just show up anyway. Show up messy, show up tired, show up broke, show up burnt out, but show up because there is a woman out there that needs to watch you show up.
I absolutely love that. And we are definitely going to make sure that you can show up on her page because China's Instagram will be collaborating with clips from this episode.
Perfect.
So if you want to know how to find her, you will be able to find her on the Second Chance Queen podcast page. So just check out there and you will find China and we'll make sure you can find her. Thank you for listening to tonight's episode of the Second Chance Queen podcast with the absolutely incredible China Allen. She's a phenomenal mother, pageant title holder, autism advocate, business owner and entrepreneur, and someone that is an outstanding role model for women across the country. She's going to do incredible things over her year as International Ms. USA 2026 and follow along her journey to see the ups and downs, ins and outs of pageantry and beyond on her Instagram page. I am looking forward to sharing a reign this year with her and collaborating as much as possible because women like China that promote collaboration over competition are the best women to have in your circle. As always, thank you for watching tonight's episode. I'm Kristianna Mrjenovich, the Second Chance Queen. And remember, you always have a second chance. You just have to be willing to take it.